Today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be a fairly simple one. We're only talking about kind of 3 chapters, but more like 2.5 chapters, really, here today. Because, I haven't written the notes for the next review yet, but the second half of the final of these 3 chapters, the very start of the duel between Kaiba and Pegasus, I imagine I'm going to reference it in that review of that actual duel, that actual few chapters where that duel happens. But I want to talk about the start of that chapter here, and the stuff that happens at the end with the very, very beginning of that duel does tie into what I want to talk about, so I'm going to talk about that here too. These 3 chapters pick up immediately in the aftermath of Yugi's loss against Kaiba. Yugi is reeling from the decision to get in the way of what the other Yugi wanted, and Kaiba's being Kaiba about it. He's talking about how Yugi failed because when Kaiba bet his 1 chip of life, everybody gets 1 chip called life, when he bet that chip, Yugi didn't have the courage to take it. And he's almost got Yugi thinking that he's some kind of coward for standing up to the being that he considers his better self in order to save Kaiba. And it's one of those things, like, from a certain perspective, yeah, what Yugi did could be considered cowardly. But you know it's not. You can feel that it's not. But it's hard to put into words why it's not. So it's absolutely fantastic that Anzu puts it into words for you. Because it was clear from how Kaiba was carrying himself in that duel with Yugi that if he can't win this duel, he doesn't feel like he has anything to live for anymore. And like, I don't want to call people who, let's keep this YouTube friendly, want to do the ultimate self-harm to themselves. I don't want to call them cowards, because that's very insensitive and very reductive and inaccurate. But Kaiba's approach to it, if he can't be in complete control of everything, he'd rather just peace out forever. That is him being a coward. And Anzu calls it on him. She calls him out for betting his chip of life as if it meant nothing, because he doesn't have the courage to hold on to it no matter what, and move on with his life even when he's not in control of everything happening around him. And he feels it. You can tell he knows that she's right. That him coming for Yugi the way he was after the duel was just his way of saving face. Not even really for them, but for himself. And yet he still has to keep going. He still has to keep fighting. He still has to remain the person that he is, because that gives him the best chance of saving his brother. So he still brushes off what she said. And that does mean that he gets into the castle, and while he's not one of the 4 finalists, there's only a finite number of star chips. And even though the others hype Yugi up and convince him, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to get you 5 more star chips, we're going to get you into that castle, it's too late. All the other contestants have already left. There are no more star chips to get. And in fact, between Bandit Keith and Jinochi, a mysterious 3rd, and the 4th that they went off to get, that's already all 4 finalists. There's no room for Yugi anyway. Except that anyone who's been paying attention should know what's coming next. Mai shows up with star chips to pay Yugi back for the ones that he won back for her against the player killer. What was his name? Darkness? And after the discussion of courage and cowardice that we got in what was now the previous chapter, we get a really cool discussion of pride here. Because especially coming from somebody like Kaiba, there's all this talk of duelist pride. How important pride is. Maya's talked about it before too. Jinochi wants to be seen as a true duelist because he has a certain amount of pride about it. And here, unlike in, again, I'm going to talk about the dub here because I did grow up with the dub. In the dub of the anime at least, Yugi is scared of the other Yugi here. Like, he does mention in the first of these 3 chapters that he's afraid of this game and he's afraid of his other self. But once he kind of winds down from that, his main concern is that he's worried what the other Yugi's going to think if he brings him out again, considering that he stood in the other Yugi's way. He got in the way of his duelist pride. And this has got him thinking about his pride and how maybe he doesn't have any. And how that's a bad thing. And now Mai shows up And she wants to give him these star chips that he did not win from her. And he says that he can't be selfish and wound the other Yugi's pride more by taking a handout. But Mai can't stand feeling like she owes somebody, so refusing to take them wounds her pride. And it's so frustrating, because all these characters have everything they need to move forward from here. It's not like they had to kill Kaiba. This makes it clear that they didn't have to kill Kaiba for Yugi to get in the castle. This is happy. This is a happy development. And the other Yugi should be happy of that too. It's just that the little Yugi doesn't know him yet well enough to know that. And between that, and between the fact that the little Yugi still doesn't consider himself to be important compared to the other one, he doesn't realize that he is arguably more the main character of this story than the other Yugi is. He can't move forward. He's stuck. And again, we know that this is wrong. We feel that it's wrong. But it's hard to put into words why, so it's great that Jinochi is here to do it for us. Talking about how pride is worthless, especially when it gets in the way of fighting for what's important. Kaiba's pride almost got in the way of him moving forward and helping his brother. And now Yugi's pride is getting in the way of him going forward and helping his grandpa. And he talks about how he's a prideful person, but he would crawl through mud. He would humiliate himself endlessly to save someone he cared about. And it's such a cool, poignant speech. And it gets Mai thinking, and she opens up. She lets down her facade, she casts her pride aside, and she opens up and she says, while yes, she felt like she owes the other Yugi for helping her, the real reason why she gathered these star chips and then sought Yugi out to give them to him was because it gave her a reason to see them again. These people who, despite all the horrible things she did to them, called her a friend. And the anime power of friendship does trump the anime power of pride, so Yugi is now able to take the star chips. And now Yugi feels much more at peace with himself, because one of the other things that came up in that dialogue is that Yugi is important too. And that they'll kick the other Yugi's ass if he tries to say otherwise. So Yugi says that if the other Yugi starts to get uppity about wounding his pride or whatever, Yugi will tell him off. And I like this a lot. I like how this is handled a lot better than how it was, at least in the dubbed anime, with Yugi pretty quickly coming to terms with the other Yugi's choices and why he made them, and finding the resolve to move forward thanks to his friends. Maybe this will carry into the upcoming chapters, I don't remember. Like, his fear of the game now will carry into upcoming chapters, but at the very least, they build the foundation here for him to move forward from that. One thing that does bum me out is that the duel that happens here is anime only. Anzu actually duels Mai. In the manga, Mai gets kind of wounded when they won't take the star chips initially. And then Jinochi gives a speech and she casts her pride aside and she is able to hand over the star chips. Yugi allows her to do it. In the anime, though, she gets kind of wounded. And then Anzu challenges her for the star chips as a way of allowing her to save face. And it's not a bad duel. I just wish that they didn't make Anzu look like a flippin' amateur. Because, again, Anzu is canonically good at this game. We've seen that. She's good at this game. She's maybe not amazing at it, but she's strong. She should at least know what her cards do, and yet in the anime she doesn't know what her cards do. And it's really, really frustrating and stupid. But what's important is it's not a bad duel. It gives Anzu something to do. And in the end, Mai surrenders. She realizes she's going to win, so she lets herself lose. She's able to save face, and just like in the manga, that's an opportunity for her to cast her pride aside and give the star chips over in a way that's more amicable to everybody. Though, to be clear, I do think I like the way that the manga handles it all through dialogue. I think that works a little bit better. This, of course, allows Yugi and Jinochi both into the castle, and Jinochi punching out the door guard allows the others inside with them, of course. So now we have our 4 finalists, Keith, Mai, Yugi, and Jinochi. And Kaiba is going to fight Pegasus immediately in a special preview exhibition type match. And we've already gotten insights into a few characters here, so let's get some insight into Pegasus too. And just how manipulative and toxic he is. Immediately when Kaiba brings out the dual disc, Pegasus uses weaponized incompetence, a thing that you may have encountered talk of online recently, because it's something people are talking about lately, to make it seem like, oh, I can't do this. This is too hard. I don't understand the newfangled technologies. So why don't I bring in a proxy? And he brings in Mokuba's soulless body to wield the dual disc for him, showing Kaiba the soul prison card that has Mokuba's soul in it. And Kaiba's still, like, in active denial over the whole magic thing, but faced with it in this situation, where he has no choice but to acknowledge it if it means saving his brother, he doesn't reject it. He just accepts that that's his brother's soul. And he can't fight his brother. He can't fight his brother's soulless body. He can't let Pegasus use it as a puppet like that. So he's not able to use the dual disc, which means all of those advantages that we talked about the dual disc would have granted him are now gone. They're now out the window. Like, Kaiba is put at a bit of an advantage. Yugi wanting Kaiba to win because Kaiba is also fighting for someone he cares about. So Yugi, someone who doesn't really have any pride of his own, is able to give Kaiba advice, warning him about the dragon capture jar that will make the Blue Eyes White Dragon worthless. But despite that advantage, Kaiba has no idea what he's getting into. Immediately as the duel starts, Pegasus puts him off guard by playing like he's just incompetent. Like he's no good at this game. And even though Kaiba knows for a fact that that's not true, it's hard not to press your advantage when you see that you have one. So he goes to play Blue Eyes, and Pegasus reveals that was all part of his plan. He was waiting for this moment, and he plays a card that allows him to steal one of the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. And that's where these 3 chapters end. We started with character insight into Kaiba in the first 3 chapters, character insight into Mai and Yugi and the other Yugi in the second of these 3 chapters, and character insight into Pegasus in the third. And now we're going to get one of the, I think, most interesting duels of this first arc in the next few chapters, Kaiba versus Pegasus, where we see what Pegasus is really made of. Setting him up as the valid threat for Yugi that he will be moving forward. These are chapters that I probably didn't need to section off and talk about separately, but I'm really glad that I did, because I don't think I would have focused on some of these details as much as I have if I hadn't done that. And I feel like they deserve to be focused on. What are effectively monologues from Anzu and Jinochi in the first 2 of these 3 chapters are genuinely really strong and excellent moments for both of their characters. And I love that it's Anzu who gets to call Kaiba out. Because, I mean, who in Yugi's group understands people better than she does? Not only does it make it feel like she's here for a reason, but it fits entirely within her character. And I love it a lot. But you guys know how much I love when these stories actually prop up Anzu. It just doesn't happen very often. But all that said, what do you guys think of these? Are chapters 47 through 49 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist manga. What do you think of them? If you have read them, let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else who you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.